What if everything you've been waiting for, every piece of intel, every late-night forum post, and every whispered promise was finally, tangibly real, not as a rumor, but as a cold, hard number flashing on a screen deep within the fortified servers of a global banking institution? Let's be brutally honest with each other for a moment. The journey of watching the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong has been a marathon of extreme patience, a roller coaster of soaring hopes and crushing delays, a path littered with more misinformation and deliberate noise than almost any other financial arena in modern history. We have navigated this landscape together, constantly sifting through the sand for those rare, gleaming specks of genuine data, and that is precisely why what I am about to walk you through today is not just another unsubstantiated update from an anonymous source. This is a structural analysis of a pattern that is so consistent and so technically specific that it forces us to sit up and pay undivided attention. We are witnessing what appears to be the most coordinated and sophisticated testing phase of new exchange rates for the IQD and VND that has ever been documented, and it's happening right now on internal bank platforms that are completely isolated from the public-facing internet and the fake, manipulated rates we see on international forex sites. These are not the final, official rates, let me be perfectly clear on that, but they are the undeniable digital scaffolding being erected behind the scenes, the crucial prerequisite that must be thoroughly completed before any global monetary event of this magnitude can ever be launched into the public domain. Think of it like this: before a major software update is released to billions of phones worldwide, the developers run it through endless simulations on their own private networks. They test every line of code, every transaction, every potential glitch in a controlled environment to ensure that when the switch is finally flipped, the system doesn't catastrophically fail. What we are seeing with the Dinar and the Dong is the financial equivalent of that exact same testing protocol. Banks and financial entities are inputting specific, higher numerical values for these currencies into their back-end systems and running a suite of diagnostic transactions, processing simulated international wire transfers, checking liquidity reserves, calculating asset-backed ratios, and ensuring their entire digital infrastructure can handle the monumental shift in value without collapsing. The data points we have managed to correlate, from multiple independent and vetted sources, show a startling convergence. We are no longer looking at random, scattered numbers, but a coherent and logical range of values that align with long-discussed economic models for a post-revaluation reality. This activity has spiked dramatically in the last several weeks, indicating that the preparatory phases are intensifying, moving from theoretical planning into active, technical rehearsal. The screenshots and terminal readouts, which we must treat with cautious optimism but undeniable intrigue, suggest that the IQD is being tested at a tiered structure, moving it decisively away from its current status, while the VND is showing simulations that would integrate it as a fully convertible, strong regional currency, a move that makes perfect sense given Vietnam's explosive economic growth and its strategic efforts to distance itself from the US dollar. This is not happening in a vacuum. It is synchronized with palpable geopolitical shifts, including high-level meetings between Iraqi officials and the International Monetary Fund that have been exclusively focused on monetary reform and the removal of currency restrictions, a critical step that has been a non-negotiable prerequisite for any revaluation. The same pattern echoes from Vietnam, where the central bank has been aggressively shoring up its foreign reserves and implementing digital currency platforms that would be essential for managing a new, robust exchange rate. The wall of silence from mainstream media is, as expected, deafening, but for us, that silence is a confirmation, not a denial, because they are the last to know. They report on events after they have occurred, while we are focused on the precursors, the seismic tremors that precede the earthquake. This behind-the-scenes digital activity is the most significant precursor we have ever seen. So, let's pull back the curtain on this digital rehearsal and delve into the specific, technical mechanics of what these bank screen tests genuinely represent, because understanding this process is what separates informed speculation from blind hope. When a bank teller or a back-office operative logs into their system, they are not seeing the raw, foundational code of the global financial network. They are interacting with a user interface that is fed by a series of complex, interlinked databases and rate tables that govern every single transaction, from a simple domestic withdrawal to a multi-million-dollar international currency swap. The official, live rate that you and I see on public platforms is just one field in a massive digital ledger, and it is a field that can be, and is being, manipulated for political and economic stability reasons, creating the artificial chasm between the official rate and the supposed street rate that causes so much confusion. What is happening now, and what these leaked screenshots are capturing, is evidence of administrators and system architects working on a parallel, non-public set of tables, a sandbox environment that mirrors the live system but is used exclusively for stress testing and scenario planning. They are inputting new, higher numerical values for the IQD and VND into these test fields and then running a battery of automated and manual transactions to see how the entire ecosystem reacts. They are asking their systems critical questions. If the dinar were to be valued at this new rate, How much capital would our bank need to cover all existing deposits and assets denominated in it? If a client requests a wire transfer to convert $10,000 into the new Vietnamese Dong at this tested value, does our system correctly calculate the amount, apply the proper fees, and route the transaction through the approved international channels without throwing an error code? Does our internal accounting software instantly revalue the entire portfolio of a client who holds a significant amount of Dong? And if so, does it trigger any internal compliance or regulatory flags that need to be addressed? This is a monumental task, akin to changing the engine of an airplane while it's still in flight, and it cannot be done with a single flip of a switch. It requires meticulous, iterative testing to ensure no single component fails. The fact that we are seeing not just one isolated test, but a pattern of tests across different financial institutions and even different countries, points to a coordinated effort, likely guided by protocols from the Bank for International Settlements or similar overarching financial authorities, to prepare the global banking infrastructure for a synchronized transition. This is why the specific numbers appearing on these screens are so vitally important. They are not random figures plucked from the air of a forum, but calculated valuations that reflect a potential new equilibrium, accounting for factors like the true oil-backed asset value of Iraq, the elimination of currency auction manipulations, Vietnam's staggering GDP growth and manufacturing output, and the strategic need to move away from a US dollar-dominated world reserve system. The tests are essentially a dry run for the moment when the lie of the current, artificially suppressed rates becomes unsustainable and the truth of these currencies' intrinsic value is unleashed onto the global market. This digital calibration is the most concrete evidence we have that the powers that be are not just talking about a revaluation, they are actively, technically, and logistically building the framework for it within the very heart of the system that will execute it. They are programming the future into their machines, and in doing so, they are leaving a digital paper trail that we are now able to follow, a trail that leads to one inescapable conclusion. The gears of this long-awaited event are not just turning, they are being meticulously oiled and fitted into place for their final, decisive rotation. This is the phase where theory meets the unyielding reality of code, databases, and financial architecture, and what we are witnessing is the system proving to itself that it is finally ready to bear the weight of a new financial dawn, a dawn that will redefine wealth and global economic power structures in ways most people cannot even begin to fathom. Now, you are likely sitting there, processing all of this, your mind racing with a mixture of exhilaration and a healthy dose of caution, and the single most important question is now screaming for an answer. What does this all mean for you, personally, right now, in this very moment, as someone who has positioned yourself for this possibility? This is the critical juncture where knowledge must transform into decisive, strategic action, because the window between this behind-the-scenes testing phase and any public announcement will be infinitesimally small, and when that moment arrives, the frenzy will be absolute, and the opportunity for calm, rational decision-making will vanish in an instant. The intense digital preparation we are dissecting is not just for the bank's benefit, it is the clearest signal you will ever receive to solidify your own personal financial preparedness plan. This is the time for absolute operational security and disciplined silence. The temptation to broadcast this information on social media or to boast to friends and family must be resisted with every fiber of your being. The integrity of this entire process relies on a controlled, managed rollout, and widespread public panic or a surge of uninformed speculation could jeopardize the very stability that the authorities are working so hard to engineer behind the scenes. Your first and most immediate action is to ensure your currency holdings are physically secure, authentic, and readily accessible. This is not the time to have your notes stored in a questionable safety deposit box or mixed in with non-negotiable collector series. You must know exactly what you have, the series and years, and have them in a place of absolute trust under your direct control. Secondly, you must have a meticulously researched and vetted plan for the post-revaluation exchange process. This is not about simply walking into your local bank branch the morning after. You need to have identified the specific, large, international financial institutions with the proven capacity to handle such a significant foreign currency transaction, and you should have already established a relationship there, even if it's just a basic savings account. You need to understand the difference between a simple cash-in and the far more strategic option of placing your funds into a private wealth management account or an asset-backed instrument that can protect your new capital from the immediate tax implications and the predatory attention that sudden wealth can attract. This is where having a trusted, discreet financial advisor who understands the dynamics of a currency revaluation becomes invaluable, and if you don't have one, you need to begin that discreet search immediately. Your goal is to be a ghost in this system, prepared, informed, and utterly silent, moving with purpose when the time is right, not as part of a frantic, panicked herd. The bank screens we are analyzing are the final proof of concept, the last technical hurdle before the public reality is rewritten. They represent the point of no return. The conversation is no longer if this will happen. Based on the digital evidence, the conversation is now about when the tested codes are pushed from the sandbox environment into the live, global financial mainframe. Your vigilance